To call the meeting of Tuesday, October 16th to order. Mr. Marne will give the invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Donovan?
Here.
Mrs. Dowling? Here. Mr. Kirchner?
Here.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Mr. Landig?
Here.
Approval of minutes for the regular meeting, October 2nd, 2018.
Move to approve?
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Public hearings, we have none. Tabled legislation, ordinance number 18-0-078.
An ordinance approving the final subdivision plat of 17 residential lots in the Creekside Farm subdivision and declaring an emergency.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I believe that this item will remain tabled at this time.
Yes, it will.
Second. We need to take a roll or no? No? Okay.
Don't even. Mr. Marne?
Yes, Mr. President. In front of us, we have new legislation. I'd like to move forward in the meeting. Ordinance number 18-0-092.
Julie?
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Read the ordinance.
Yep. You want to say the number?
Ordinance number 18-0-092.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a settlement agreement and release, and the law director to execute a stipulated notice of dismissal regarding the case styled State of Ohio, ex rel. Michael DeWine, Ohio Attorney General et al. Versus Jerome T. Osborne et al., and declaring an emergency.
Counsel?
Move to suspend?
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes. Move to approve?
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Ordinance number 18-0-092 has been approved. Ordinance number 18-0-088.
An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a Mentor Incentive Grant with Signature Health, Inc., and declaring an emergency.
Counsel? Or, excuse me, Mr. Flipiak, a member of your staff.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are pleased to be able to keep this company in Lake County, Signature Health, who will be relocating to the city of Mentor and undergoing a small expansion. Mr. Melichek, please.
Thank you, Mr. Flipiak. Yes, this Mentor Incentive Grant will result in the retention of 137 jobs here in Lake County and the creation of 19 new jobs here in Mentor when they move to this new facility. The approximate payroll that they're moving over is $2.4 million, and expected payroll over the next 5 years could exceed $5 million, up to $5.2 million.
Counsel, what's your pleasure?
Move to suspend?
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Ordinance number 18-0-088 has been passed. Ordinance number 18-0-089.
An ordinance authorizing transfers of funds, advances of funds, and revisions to appropriations, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, this ordinance does three different things. Firstly, it approves or authorizes 2 permanent cash transfers out of both the TIF fund and the city's general fund, as noted in the staff report. It includes 1 temporary cash advance out of the city's general fund to the Federal Crime Deterrent Fund for the current calendar year 28, or fiscal federal year 2018, And then it has about a dozen appropriation revisions as noted in the staff report. A few of the larger items, we are appropriating $50,000 out of the line item in the Marina Infrastructure General Fund over to the Mentor Beach Park project. We are appropriating $108,500 from the city's general fund to cover the joint cost of the feasibility study, the city's share of that estimated cost. $146,000 is an increase in the street fund for the latest change order on the additional work to concrete primarily. And largest item, a grant, 60%, 40% share, adds up to a $440,227 appropriation for the Springbrook Fund. That's pretty much the larger dollar items. There are several others that are noted in the staff report. I recommend approval. Thank you.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Yes.
Move pass. Oh, go ahead.
Second.
There you go.
Did I hear a first and a second there?
Yes.
Okay. Julie, call the roll.
Inadvertent, yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Ordinance number 18-0-089 has passed. Ordinance number 18-0-090.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a change order to Chagrin Valley Paving for Contract A of the 2018 road repair program and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. And as council is aware, every year we generally will increase our paving contract marginally depending on conditions that emerge when we are contractors in the field or additions. In this particular case, predominantly due to unanticipated full-depth repairs through the course of the project and some additional work we did to the bike lanes along Lakeshore Boulevard. Ask for your approval.
Thank you.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Ordinance number 18-0-090 has passed. Ordinance number 18-0-091.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to award a bid contract to Mark Haynes Construction, Inc. for the Mentor Beach Park Emergency Revetment Repair Program and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this goes to our losing battle we are fighting with Lake Erie these days with the rise in the water levels. We are forced this year to do emergency repairs to protect Mentor Beach Park. Mr. Quigger.
Thank you, Mr. Flippia. 6 bids were opened on October 5th for the Mentor Beach Park Emergency Revetment Repair Project. The bids range from a low bid of $368,616 to a high bid of $597,000. The project will install approximately 3,000 cubic yards of armor stone over about 275 feet of existing shoreline at Mentor Beach Park. The stone will be placed between and near the existing building in Lake Erie to stop erosion. An additional 120 feet of armor stone will also be placed along the shoreline on the east side of the property to repair erosion as well. The engineer's estimate for the cost of construction was $427,000. The low bid was received from Mark Haynes Construction Incorporated of Norwalk, Ohio, who's found to be in conformance with all bid requirements. It's therefore recommended that the contract be awarded to Mark Haynes Construction in the amount of $368,616.00. The scheduled completion date for the work is February 1st of 2019. Thank you.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Ordinance number 18-0-091 has passed. Resolution number 18-R-121.
A resolution to prepare estimated assessments for the construction of certain sidewalks associated with a pedestrian safety program in Zone 3A in the city of Mentor and declaring an emergency, ratifying and confirming publications and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has to do with our most recently completed sidewalk work in Ward 3. Mr. Swigger.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. In 2017, the city identified 832 out of about 1,000 parcels that had sidewalk deficiencies in Zone 3A of Ward 3. And as you recall, Zone 3A is bounded by State Route 306, Bellflower Road, Independence Place condominiums, and State Route 2. 252 of the 832 parcels cited completed repairs on their own in 2017, replacing about 985 sidewalk slabs. Sidewalk slabs that were not repaired last year were replaced this year by the city's sidewalk contractor, Lake County Landscape and Supply. Approximately 1,200 slabs of concrete were replaced through assessment on 580 properties. An additional 924 slabs were replaced by the city at street trees or because of storm sewer or manhole issues. A grand total of 3,149 sidewalk slabs were repaired or replaced by residents in the city in Zone 3A. This year, a typical 5x5, 4-inch thick concrete slab costs $137.50 to replace as compared to $162.50 last year. An administrative cost for approximately $15 per property for mailing and advertising is included in the estimated cost of assessments. Interest was charged at a rate of 2% over 3 years, or around 6% simple interest of construction cost. Total cost for construction, administrative costs, and interest for the assessed portion of the work came to $191,639.81. The legislation is a resolution per the Ohio Revised Code declaring the need to prepare estimated assessments for construction of the sidewalk over parcels shown on Exhibit A attached in your packet. This resolution, a notice will be published in the News Herald twice and then be listed for 19 consecutive days on their public notice website, as required by the ORC. The notice will also be published on the city's sidewalk program webpage. The notice will state that the list of assessments is on file in the office of the city engineer for inspection by the public. Property owners will have 2 weeks after the 21-day notice of publication ends to file an objection to the cost of the assessments in writing to the clerk of council. Any objections to the cost of assessments, when they're resolved and final assessments have been prepared, a final assessing ordinance will be presented to council for approval. Thank you.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Resolution number 18-R-121 has passed. Resolution number 18-R-122.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to file an application and enter into an agreement with the Ohio Public Works Commission for the purpose of acquiring funds through the State Capital Improvement Program for the Midland Road Storm Sewer Improvement Phase 2 project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President. And council will recall at our last meeting, we asked you to approve two projects, two applications for submission to OPWC. Those are projects that we fully anticipate will be funded. This is one that we anticipate will not be funded. It has fallen below the scoring level that would allow for it to go forward. However, we're still going to formally submit it because there is, from time to time, money returned from past projects that could fund new projects that are further down the list, or additional money is provided by the state. So while we don't think this will be funded in this round, we're still going to submit it and the off chance that it will. And this is, of course, the second phase of the Ward 2 project along Midland. So the Midland work is completed. This is the downstream receiving end and section along Mentor Avenue that will, again, be enlarged.
Council, any questions?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Resolution number 18-R-122 has passed. Resolution number 18-R-123.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency for a stream and wetland restoration project within Springbrook Gardens Park and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council, and we're really excited about this. This is a grant that Mr. Brunkman applied for. This is actually a part of our anticipated Phase 2 improvements that are in our 5-year capital improvements plan, and will be submitted for your consideration when we get into our budget discussions to finish up those improvements. So what this is, as council's aware, essentially the stream that runs through Springbrook Park is a man-made stream. It would be our intention over time to enhance that by creating some wetland areas to promote fishing and other type of educational experiences, and just to enhance the overall experience at the new park. This is approximately a $440,000 project. We're receiving 60% of that, $264,136 as a grant. While we will not move forward with this work until calendar year 2019, we're required to enter into the agreement now. So we're asking council to approve the contract, and this appropriation for this work has been included in the appropriation ordinance that you recently passed.
Thank you. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake? Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes. Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Resolution number 18-R-123 has passed. Second reading, we have none. Third reading, we have none. But before we get to the manager's report, can I just congratulate our law director of 16 years and the fine job he's done for the city of Mentor, and wish him well in retirement?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Richard, I'd just like to say, I thought about it after we were done talking this afternoon, but the first time we met, I was setting up my booth at It's Better in Mentor, and you came over to me, and you introduced yourself, and you went way out of your way. And I really appreciate that. You didn't have to do it. At the time, you even dragged Bob Shiner and his cigarettes over so he could see my booth, too. And you've been a great councilman, a great law director, and a great friend, and the city of Mentor would not be where it's at today without you and all your efforts. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott. Well, actually, today I remembered that, the first time I met you, and I was thinking to myself, boy, I walked over there, and here's this tall, dark, handsome young guy, all full of vim and vigor, and very articulate. And then I looked at your spread of all your materials, and I thought, boy, I'm glad he's not running against me.
Well, look what happens. Time catches up with all of us. Good luck.
Now we can have the manager's report, which will lengthen your active participation.
Well, I just want to add my thoughts to that as well. Congratulations, Richard, on your retirement. From the administration standpoint, from my standpoint personally, he's been an incredible resource for us, and I can honestly say that there has never been a time where we haven't been able to call on you, Richard, in your department to be able to help us accomplish our goals. And I can say that 100% of the time, you've always had the city's best interest at heart. And that's, over a long career, that's a lot to say. I mean, so congratulations.
Thank
and, job very well done. So, a little less exciting. Construction activities for the Orchard Road reconstruction project will begin the week of October 22nd. Residents there are invited to attend an overview meeting on Wednesday, October 24th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Mentor Headlands Community Center located at 9096 Lake Overlook Drive. We'll have representatives from the city there, CT Consultants, who's the consultant engineer, JTO Inc., who is the contractor, and of course our ward councilman will be presiding over that meeting. We'll be able to address specifics of that project going forward, try to talk through some of what we learned over the Marigold project, and letters to those directly impacted residents, I think, went out today, right, Mr. Swigger? So we'll look forward to that. Starting the week of October 22nd, the cap on the amount of yard waste that may be set out increases from 12 units to 25 units, a unit being defined as a paper yard waste bag, a container, or a tied bundle of brush. This cap will remain in place through the second full week of December, which is when our program will end. Marigold Road reconstruction, final paving is complete. A punch list item will be prepared soon, and the project will be finalized. Menor Avenue widening, Mr. Marn, who just had to step out, was asking us this afternoon, when are we going to get that done? Final paving and striping is tentatively expected to occur Thursday and Friday night. Subject to weather and temperature constraints, they were supposed to do final paving over the weekend, but the weather sort of interrupted that activity. After final paving, punch list work will be performed and the project will be complete. Hopkins Road milling and full-depth repairs from Menor Avenue to State Routes 84 are complete. Casting adjustments are the next thing that'll happen there, followed by final paving, and that will happen by the end of October. The Hopkins Road Bridge opening has been moved back to November 2nd due to a delay in guardrail delivery and to a revised pavement marking schedule due again to inclement weather and temperatures. Brighton Road Storm Sewer Project contractor JTO will begin construction on Wednesday, October 17th. The project is located on Headlands Road, just east of Brighton Road. And I mention this because Headlands Road will be closed starting Wednesday, October 17th to set up operations to directionally drill a storm sewer pipe under the slope on the north side of Headlands Road to an existing outfall, and traffic will be detoured to the west to Rambler and then to the east to Jordan. So the scheduled completion date is November 30th, but how long is that detour going to be in place, Dave?
For the majority of the work.
So a little bit of a disruption there, but not too terribly long. Menor Police Department's Victim Assistance Program, once again, was approved for a grant through the Victim of Crimes Act. The grant was for $41,000, which covers 80% of our victim advocate's salary, plus additional funds for training. The annual Halloween Party for Dogs is at the Menor Dog Park this Friday from 5:30 to 6:45 p.m. Overflow parking is available at the Public Works facility. There will be contests and prizes for the best dog costumes. Moxie coming out?
She's been there in the past.
And Mysteries at the Manor Trail takes place this Friday and Saturday nights at the Wildwood Cultural Center from 6:30 to 8 p.m. This is a family-friendly event, and you can call Wildwood for details or for registration, or visit our website, and tickets go pretty quickly for that. So if you don't have them already, you may want to get on top of that. And then finally, we have two new businesses to announce today. Taco Bell at 9500 Diamond Center and S&S Automotive at 7471 Tyler Boulevard. And we thank them for our investment in the community, and we wish them great success. That's all.
Thank you.
President?
Yes.
Perhaps Mr. Filipiak would like to also update us and the residents about the award. Once again, our finance department received, Mr. Malinowski, and the state auditor came personally. So
Yes, we're extremely proud to once again be the recipient of the highest award, the award with distinction through the State Auditor's Office. And as we came to learn, only about 8% of the communities are, 5%, I'm sorry, 5% communities are able to succeed with that grant. That is in great part to our fantastic finance department staff with Mr. Malinowski's leadership. And you only can be eligible for that award if you produce a CAFR, and we are one of the only communities of our size that produces that combined annual financial report in-house. And so Bonnie Lingefelder generally pulls out about half her hair at this time, at that time of the year. But she did a great job, as did all of Mr. Malinowski's staff, and we were very proud to be able to receive that from Mr. Yost a week or so ago. Dave, did you want to mention anything?
It's all been said. A thank you to council for approving all these massive appropriation revisions that I bring to you just about twice a month. That's a big part of it. And the city manager's office, obviously, is a big part of supporting us. And most importantly, our staff, particularly the assistant director. That's the person in the trenches. I've been there.
Well, good.
But thank you very
Congratulations
much.
to you and your staff then.
Thank you.
Job well done.
Very good.
that up.
You're welcome.
Clerk's correspondence. We have a liquor permit, transfer of stock membership. I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. Over. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Council's in receipt of a transfer of stock membership for a liquor permit for Ruby Tuesday, Inc., DBA Ruby Tuesday. And that is all.
Commission committee reports, meeting minutes for Board of Building and Zoning Appeals, September 11, 2018. Old business, none. New business,
Mr. President,
Mr. Kirchner.
Kirchner, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
While we're mentioning some of your staff, Mr. Flippy, I also wanted to mention that I know it's this personnel has their job to do, and sometimes they go above and beyond, and I wanted to congratulate and thank Brian Ashurst. We were talking earlier about the sidewalk program, and I don't know how many times I saw Brian out on the streets addressing issues with people, also addressing issues that I brought to him, and I'm sure Bruce did. And in every case, in talking with the residents, they were very satisfied with his professionalism in handling sometimes very sensitive issues because there's money involved and sometimes these programs are confusing as well. So he did a great job, and also we had some tree issues that were going on in the neighborhood. He had to come out and explain to people, about the trees and who's responsible and how much time they had. And but I just wanted to commend Brian on doing a great job on working on those projects. So thanks him from me, and I'm sure from my colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Kirchner.
You're welcome, Mr. Friedman.
Doing a fine job.
New business, none, or was that your new business?
That was it.
That was it, okay. Persons before council, we have one. Elaine Foster.
Evening, City Council, Mr. President, everybody that's here. My glasses are crooked, please tell me, because I know I'm going to be. First, before I begin at all, welcome to the suburban hunting season 2018. That's why I'm here. You know that. But I would like to thank one of the members of council, Mr. Landick, before I begin, for being so kind. It makes me cry. I appreciate it. Thank you. That being said, there's more destruction of the wildlife habitat occurring in my backyard, a home that I've had for 31 years. And for those of you who have watched me year after year be up here, it's tough. It's very hard to watch the city buy property and the city tear it down. More suburban slaughter of the wild white-tailed deer. City of Mentor Parks and Rec has a wonderful website. I watched it today again about all the wonderful things that the deer management program has done for the woods and the wildlife. But what I see is slaughter. I see hunters perched yards away from deer that they have baited. And I see orphaned fawns running around, crossing streets. White-tailed deer are herd animals, and herds are being just annihilated in this city. It's the very ugly side of this program, and it hasn't been shown and it hasn't been talked about. And when I talk to Parks and Rec and I talk about telling the truth, that's the part that I think needs to be aired as well. You've got the pretty side. What about the ugly side? And I wonder if when I wanted to do the presentation of some pictures and facts and land and different aspects of the deer management program, whether that would even be permitted. And I haven't come forward to do that because I'm afraid that it won't be permitted, and people need to see the realities of this program. We sit up here in our suits and ties, and decisions are made, and it's no offense to any of you, but there is a truth. It's not discussed by any of you. The other thing that I found out today, last night actually, because I did call the chief, and I saw a tree stand on a property that was on the ground, and it's within, I didn't measure it myself because I'm not allowed on that property anymore based on what occurred to me 3 years ago. But there's an assisted living home right next to an area of a church where there's a hunter. It's real close to this assisted living home. And if one of those animals gets injured by a wayward arrow and goes running the one direction, there's some residents there that could be severely injured. And I don't think that's looked at either. Permission is granted wherever the hunter wants to hunt. The hunter's most likely given permission to hunt. And it doesn't matter how other people feel. It doesn't matter who's at risk. I want the council to think about this. I'd like you to take a look at what's going on and where hunting is being permitted to take place and who's at risk. I know you don't like what I have to say, and you might not take anything that I say seriously anymore because you know how I feel about the program. But there is other aspects of this program, and there are people at risk. And there are people that have lived in the neighborhoods for years and years and years. And I remember someone said something about their lighting on their streets, and they were upset about the type of lighting that were on their streets. Well, I'm upset. I've lived in my home for 31 years, and everything around me is being destroyed. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Hey, Ray,